Hi everyone, it's Jan from Jan Plans Things and welcome to my Plan With Me video for this week. So I'm going to start off by using some masking fluid underneath my painting. So I'm going to paint it where I want the white areas of the painting. And I'm also using a Princeton Glacier brush. Mainly because it's synthetic and it's a bit cheaper than my other brushes, and I don't want to like be using my Kolinsky's in using the masking fluid just in case it damages the brush. So I'm careful to rinse it very often. The watercolors I'm using today are from Agallo colors. It's in this 24 set palette, but it's only the 12 colors, and I've moved 2 of the reds from the Natural palette over into that because of Christmas, and I've been using those reds a lot for candy canes and peppermints and stuff. I'm basically just shading at the moment. The food that I want will be a warm brown color, and then I will shade a couple of things grey, which are the things like the ornaments, the bucket, and the cat. Humphrey, obviously, in the grey colours. So I'm just adding some tone first, just to add a little bit of depth to the painting before I start. I'm going to try and just show you guys the tools that I'm using a bit more carefully in this, because I do get a lot of questions from you. The other palette that I'll be using today is my Handmade brass watercolor palette from Classic Paintbrushes. It's got a mixing set of 17 colors in it. I based it on the color set by Jane Blondell, but I have changed a few of the colors in there, and I'm also using my Isabe size 4 Kolinsky round brush, and I use this brush for most things, and I switch to a detail brush later on. My Daniel Smith palette, I've used most of the colors from the Jane Blondell set, but the few that I've changed I've mixed myself, mainly a blue that I've mixed with Moonglow, which I use a lot for clouds. I used that a lot in August when I was doing my star theme, and a grey and a black. So those are the colors of my set. You can actually see all the colors that I've labeled in my Instagram, where I've done in one of my Instagram highlights for my watercolor palette. I actually label what all the colors are in there. So what I'm doing now is I started by drawing the peppermints this time, because I found that they're nice and bright and strong in color, and they help to ground the image a little bit. And then I painted the pudding on the floor because I felt like the picture was floating a bit. I'm using for details this Russian brush. It's also a White Knight's brush, and I think this one's a 0 size, and it's also round. I mainly buy rounds because I find them very versatile, and I haven't bought a lot of brushes yet. I do have a few squares, but I haven't used them yet. And I think one rigger for really thin lines. But for everyday painting, especially in this journal, I mainly use round brushes. So I've been inspired a lot by Tanya's work. I'll link her Instagram below this month, and because she has some really lovely guides on how to draw some gingerbread and stuff like that on her Instagram, so I do recommend that you check it out. For my composition this time, I didn't really decide what I was doing to start off with. I really just wanted to have Humphrey wearing a Christmas tree hat, so I started drawing that, but my regret was that I drew it too high in the page, so I had to build up everything around Humphrey sitting on this pot. So the composition wasn't as planned as last time. I kind of just did it as I went along, and mainly because I do little sketches like this, like doodles in between my breaks at work. So I don't actually sit down and do it all in one fell swoop. I've got a lollipop peppermint off to the side. I wasn't sure about how many I should have. When I finished this painting, I felt like I needed more peppermints because I felt like they would have warmed up the page a lot more. Also, because of Humphrey's Christmas tree hat, it added a lot of green to the center of the page, which kind of gave it more of a cool look instead of the warmer look that I had last week. I'm okay with that. It's a little bit different, but it was just something that I think if I had planned ahead a little bit more, I might have put a few more golds and warms in there just to balance it out a little bit more. I'm just slowly building up the shadows and everything I haven't, this time around I didn't have as much of a plan of how I was approaching everything. I was just more just colouring in as I went, and kind of just hoping that every time I filled up a colour it would look a little bit more harmonious in terms of the palette. The other thing was that I would just flip back and add shadows and line work whenever I felt like it needed a little bit more detail. I've got the bucket sitting on a couple of big baubles as well, and I'm just painting in a few details in terms of the bow on Humphrey's tail. The masking fluid that I put on at the beginning, I put it on where the icing is as well as where the light globes are on the Christmas tree, so that I could just paint even washes over the top of that. The thing is, if you're painting around little objects like that in a painting, what will happen is you'll actually end up building up the pigment around that area, and you won't get that nice even wash. And it shows up a lot more on journal paper than watercolor paper, mainly because it tends to sit on the surface a lot more than seeps right through. I mean, the Archer and Olive is quite forgiving in that type of way, but if you're doing it on a Leuchtturm, it definitely wouldn't work. So I do make use of my masking fluid as much as possible, especially if I want little details. And the thing is, because watercolor is transparent, you have to be really careful in terms of leaving areas white if you want a lighter color on top, because it will just kind of multiply on top of it and you can end up with a muddy mess. So trying to keep the areas that you want light is important, and I think masking fluid helps you kind of cheat that way a lot. I kept on adding reds and greens to make this more like a classical Christmas look, but I think that the green that I mixed was a little dark. But that was, in the end it's okay, because I was able to lighten it a bit with a lot of gold. always gold. So now we're reaching the end of December, so I think next week will be my last post of this year, and then I'll be taking a bit of a break because I'll be going overseas for a bit. So I might not be able to get a January plan with you guys, but I will be back maybe mid next month. To be honest, I need a little bit of a break. I think I've been I'm looking forward to a little holiday. I think I've got a little snowman sitting at the top in this little snow globe. I'm just painting in his hat and scarf at the moment. I haven't actually drawn a strong line around that because I've just kind of dashed it in, and leaving that little gap, your brain fills in that space in between it anyway. So I didn't put a strong black line around the scarf like I used to, just a gentle red one that kind of just indicates where it is. And that's a lot of the cases with the little stripy ribbons that I've been doing. So instead of drawing the outline for those, I kind of just dash it in, and then your brain kind of fills in the gap anyway. So that's just a little tip. So don't always over color, because if you do and try and fill in everything, you might end up overworking a painting, and if some negative space can do what the effect you need is, you don't have to paint everything in. So that's just a little tip that I've been learning as well. Also with watercolors, as you build up the colors, you always try and build it up in layers, and then afterwards you can go back with a more pigmented brush and add the little details like the stripes and the plaid that I have on the bauble and everything. That's just the same color but just a little bit darker. I'm just painting Humphrey at the moment. I've got him sitting happily on this little chocolate muffin thing on this industrial pot. Wasn't quite sure what that was, but that's okay. I actually had to outline Humphrey a bit because he felt a little bit washed out because he is all grey. I think if I was painting a cat a different colour, it wouldn't have been as much as a problem, but because Humphrey is all grey and I'm committed to drawing my cat, I do have to adjust that a little bit and give him a little bit outline just to make it a little bit stronger. I'm not outlining in pure black though. I'm trying to outline in grey so it's a bit softer, because I'm finding if I outline in all black, it's probably too strong for the type of look that I'm going for this month. However, black does have its place. I do like using it a lot, but for this kind of like happy, warm Christmas look, I'm trying to outline in a darker version of the same colour that I'm painting in, or with a grey or brown, so that I'm not overpowering with the outline, especially when there's so many details. I'd rather use that that technique instead. So I've just removed the masking fluid off the surface of the paper, and I just use that using a simple eraser. Some people use the back of their brush, so whatever works best for you. And then I just kind of just roll it off the page, and after that I add some shadows. I'm going to mix a little bit of the Holbein Artist Brilliant Gold. I love this gouache because it's got big chunky glitter particles in it, so I mix that with some of the browns to get some glitter sitting on the top of the page, especially on the muffin tin. And then for really opaque gold colors, I'm using my Coliro or Fine-Tech Golds palette. You can see I've hit the pan on one of the colors because I've used them so much, but I found that version on the palette, that color, the most opaque. So I've been using it quite a bit. A couple of you guys asked me how come I don't use silver. So this time around I am adding a little bit of silver in the form of little fairy lights on the cable. So I do like using that gold because it's nice. It dries quite, it looks like almost gold leaf because it's so opaque. And here I am using some of the platinum silver color. I'm just dotting it along the line because I find that when it kind of hits the paper, that tiny dot of silver really catches the light like a little bit of glitter. But now I'm using the Winsor & Newton gouache in white, and that's just to paint in the details. And the thing is, I do love glitter, but I try to use glitter in binding, like in the Holbein gouache, because I find that if I put pure glitter on it, it'll just go everywhere and I'll have glitter for the rest of my life in this journal. So it's much better for me to use paints that have the glitter imbued into them already. Because I think if I wanted to, I would probably put glitter everywhere, but I need to calm down and be professional, because it's not great to walk into a meeting and then you open your journal and a puff of glitter flies out over all the executives. Not awesome. But that's why I do love putting shiny things in there. So I do use a mixture of golds and that gold palette. I haven't invested in a coloured pearlescent palette yet, so I might do that in the future, but at the moment I think there's just something nice about the warm golds on a page, especially at Christmas time. So I've put the stars for the dates kind of like in a Christmas theme. And now I've changed around. I've put 4 days on the right hand side because I know that my first 2 days are going to be a bit more busy wrapping up for the rest of this work year, because Australia breaks up, most of us break up by the end of the week, and then on Thursday and Friday we basically just got Christmas parties and wrap up. So I'm really hoping I don't have much task there, so I've just put more of those on the one side to fill out the page a little bit, and just a little bit of, and just a tiny star for the weekend, and then I'm off. So, and then starting now with the Tombow Food&Oscar hard tip pen. The hard tip is the blue barrel, and it's got this lovely little spongy tip. The green barrel is a little bit softer, but I find because I'm writing quite small, the blue barrel works a lot better for me to do some lettering. And I'm using the isograph pen. This is the new one. I've had isographs I think for about 30 years now. This one hasn't lasted as well. So I actually inherited my Rowney from my dad, so this is the new one that I got this year, and they have made changes over the last 25 years. I think you'd expect that. Anyway, so the quality of the pen isn't as it was before, but I guess you could say that about anything. But I do enjoy writing because I'm using them because the line is so consistent and it's kind of lovely. But my barrel has cracked a little bit, but I think I'll try and get that rectified in the future. So that is my spread for this week. I'm pretty happy with it actually. It looks kind of cute. I love Humphrey sitting there happily. He has been terrorizing my Christmas tree this week. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!